Hey everyone, welcome to the video. This one we are going over the 2-game NBA slate for tonight on Draftkings, and no, I am not looking forward to this slate. I hate super small slates. I can live with a 4-game slate. 3 games is pushing it, but 2 is just downright nasty. But I'm sure you guys are going to play, and I'm sure I will as well. So I figured I'd just go over some of the guys that are standing out to me as of right now. Before we continue, you guys can leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16, and my spreadsheet that I build every single night for the NBA season. Links in the description below for my Patreon. And I say, without further ado, we get right into it. So if there's one thing you should do on the slate, it's probably that you should play Luka Doncic tonight. He comes in at 11,400, by far the most expensive guy on the slate, but it's for a darn good reason. He is the top spender of the slate easily. He's nearly averaging a triple-double in the season. He's averaging 30 points per game, 9.8 assists, and 10 boards, so very, very close to averaging a triple-double. I believe he has 7 triple-doubles out of 15 games this season. The guy has been an absolute monster. He's getting 34 minutes per game with an elite 1.78 points per minute, which is by far the best on the slate. It's one of the best in the league as well. I know Giannis is ahead of him, but other than that, it's pretty much just him and Luka right now. He's got a 35% usage rate. Now, this is not the greatest matchup in the world versus the Clippers, but point guards, they're 17th versus point guards, so it's not the absolute worst. But they're still a good defensive team. But Luka is just unstoppable. He should have his way here, and he's the clear spin-up option. I mean, if you just look at his game log, it's insane. 70, 62, 77, 78, 57, 74, 56, 59, 72, 43 versus Orlando, which was a tougher matchup. But Luka has just been absolutely dominant. I don't see how you fade him on a 2-game slate. That sounds scary. If you do, I'd be sweating the whole time. I don't think it ends well for you, but I'm personally going to play Luka no matter what tomorrow. Then I also like Jokic here. He comes in at 9,800, significantly cheaper than Luka Doncic. For a good reason, though. He has not been consistent this season. I mean, 35, 64, 47, 26, 37, 43, 42, 57. Not been great this year, 25, 35. But I love the spot here. This is a pace-up spot for the Denver Nuggets. Washington is 7th in pace of play, while Denver is 27th. So I do like getting guys in pace-up spots. And this is an elite matchup for Jokic. Washington is 30th versus centers. That's dead last. And the Nuggets have the highest total in the slate at 219. So points are going to be scored here. Just your typical what teams do versus Washington. These games tend to be high scoring because Washington, just their defense is absolutely pitiful. Now, is there a chance this game gets a little out of hand at one point? Maybe, but it's a small slate. You got to target the guys in good matchups and just hope for the best. And Nikola Jokic is definitely one of those guys. He's getting 1.32 points per minute on the year with a 25% usage rate. Should get you over 30 minutes here, and I definitely think 45 to 55 fantasy points is definitely in the realm of possibilities with upside of 60, just depending on how he does with the rebounds and assists. So Nikola Jokic, triple-double upside, and I do think he's one of the top plays on the slate for sure. So I'm more than likely going to start out my lineups with Luka and Jokic. Then I'll figure out how to jam them in. But we will see. But as of right now, that's what I'm pretty sure I'm going to do. Bradley Beal comes in at 9,300. If I'm going to pay up for Luka and Jokic, there's really not that much value on this slate, so I can't see myself being able to play Bradley Beal. So he's definitely a GPP option if you end up fading the first two, but I just really like the other two guys' spots better. The Denver defense is pretty darn good, so I'd probably look to go elsewhere with Bradley Beal. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. If I have to play one, I'm probably going to end up going with Paul George here. He's just a tad bit cheaper, and he's been pretty solid. I mean, 37, 43, 44, 30, 54, 49, a couple of those games with Kawhi Leonard not playing. But Paul George, 8,200, if you can fit him in, I do think he's a solid play. I'm not sure how easy he's going to be able to fit in with guys like Luka and Jokic, so maybe he'll be a pass for you in cash games, but he could definitely be a GPP option. But as of right now, I do prefer getting just Luka and Jokic, but Paul George would be an outside option for me if you want to get a little bit different in GPPs. But him playing alongside Kawhi Leonard definitely caps his upside. Jamal Murray, he's been pretty good, 7,400. He's definitely an option for me. I mean, his game logs looked pretty good the past few games. 39, 40, 35, 67. 17 was pretty rough. but then 37, 24, 53. The guy's got upside, and this is one of the best matchups in the league versus Washington, one of the worst teams on defense, and especially versus guards. So if you don't play Jamal Murray, I think he's a fine option. He should get you over 33, 35 plus minutes. And if the game's competitive, which there could be a little bit of concern there, but I'm projecting him for over 30 minutes in this game. Been a little bit over a point per minute this season, so Jamal Murray definitely on my radar as of right now. I skipped a few guys, didn't I? Yeah, Porzingis, he's in play. Not a great matchup down low versus the Clippers. They've been one of the better teams defensively. Is coming off a great game versus Houston. We had 34 minutes, 13 boards, 23 points, 51 points. That 51-point game is a little bit of an outlier here. He's typically lived in that 30 to 40-point range with a couple of clunkers mixed in, like 13, 21. But he does have upside. We've seen him score over 50 points recently, too, in the past 10 games. So I think he's fine. Probably more of a GPP option. But 6,900 is pretty cheap. That's the cheapest we've seen him since on November 14th. And other than that, he's been in that mid 7K range. So he is a little bit cheap here. And this game should be decent for fantasy purposes. I say that like there's more than 2 games on the slate. But Kristaps Porzingis, he's in play, just not a top tier play for me. If he ends up fitting in your Jokic and Luka lineups, yeah, you can do that. I don't mind that at all. Harrell's coming off a monster game. Is he going to replicate that? Probably not. But he did have a great game versus OKC as well, where he had 55 points and he had 59 points versus New Orleans. I think he can get you 30 to 40 points versus Dallas, but he is not a core play for me as of right now. I just thought I'd hit on him a little bit because he had a monster game last time out. But that's what he's capable of doing that. Lou Williams off the bench. I mean, he's okay. I don't really see this as being a big Lou Williams guy. The price is down, though. He's only 6,300. That's the cheapest we've seen him since not even on this game log, so probably near October. So 6,300. Very cheap for Lou Williams, and we know the guy's got upside. I mean, when he's hitting his threes and hitting all of his shots and he sees 30 plus minutes, he's typically a pretty good play. So 6,300, I do think he should be on your radar. This is very cheap for a guy like Lou Williams who can score in a hurry, and he's got 50-point upside. We know that with Sweet Lou, so definitely should be on your radar. Will Barton, though, I do have interest in Will Barton here. He comes in at 6,100. He does offer us more upside than his teammate Gary Harris, who we're going to talk about in a little bit, but that also comes with a price tag. But he's seeing about 31 minutes per game, sits at about a point per minute on the season with a 20% usage rate. I project him for a little bit over 30 minutes tonight. You should expect probably anywhere from 30 to 35 points out of Will Barton with upside of 40. We've seen it. Just depends on how he's scoring that night. But it's obviously a great matchup. Washington's they're dead last versus shooting guards, and they're pretty awful versus small forwards as well and point guards. So whatever you want to call Will Barton, I do think he's a pretty good play. Am I going to be able to pay 6,100 for him? I'm not totally sure, but I do think he's a pretty solid GPP play because I just love targeting guys versus Washington. Denver typically plays slow, and they're getting a nice pace-up spot here versus an awful defense. And then just going down the list here, Thomas Bryant. I actually like Thomas Bryant quite a bit tonight. He comes in at 5,800, and on the opposite side of Jokic, I do like him. I should say I don't like targeting guys versus Denver, but it's not the worst versus centers. They are 14th versus them this season, but it's not a great matchup as a whole for Washington. But as of right now, I got Bryant for about 30 minutes, and he's been about 1.1 points per minute on the season, so I think it's a fair projection to have him for over 30 fantasy points tonight, which at 5,800, that is not too bad. And these Washington games tend to be high scoring with their lack of defense. So Thomas Bryant, 5,800, I think he has a hard time not paying off his price tag. I mean, he's had some upside games before, 41 versus Cleveland and 38 versus Charlotte. Better matchups than this, but I do think he will be fine. This is the cheapest we've seen him, I think, all season. So do like the discount there we get with Thomas Bryant, and he is grading out as one of the better values on my sheet. Paul Millsap, he's in play for me at 5,400. He's a solid cash game guy. Not a lot of high upside out of Paul Millsap. I mean, he's shown a couple of decent games this season, but typically not going to get a huge game out of him. But I do think he's solid for cash games. And it's not like we have a ton of options on this slate, so Millsap is standing out. And he's been very solid recently. 30, 34, 29, 39, 31, 32, 31, 37, 20, 23. Not too bad for Paul Millsap. If he can get me around 30 points at 5,400, I will take it. This is his lowest price tag we've seen from him since November 12th, I believe. Yeah, versus Atlanta when he was 4,900. In Washington, they're awful down low, and this is a pace-up spot. They're the third worst defense in the league right now for fantasy points given up. Now, he's not going to get big minutes. He's not a big, minute per game guy. But I have him for about 25 tonight, and he's slightly over 1 point per minute on the season. So I do think he's a safe bet for 30 points given the game environment and the matchup here. So Paul Millsap definitely on a short list for me. Then just scrolling down this list here, Isaiah Thomas at 4,600. That's that's a decent price for him. He's been in that 5K range, so price coming down. I like getting guys when their price came down. Is it a great matchup versus Denver? No, but versus point guards they are 14th, so it's not like they've been absolutely elite versus them. I think he can get you over 20 points, and we're starving for value on this slate. So 4,600 Isaiah Thomas, should see about 25 plus minutes here. I think he's definitely in play. Not my favorite play in the world, but again, we do not have a lot of value on this slate. So you got to play some guys you're not totally comfortable with. Gary Harris, he comes in at 4,200. One of the more boring players you can ever play, but he is in play for me. So he's going to grade out as a nice value on models, spreadsheets, optimizers, whatever. I mean, he's getting 32 minutes per game. He has an ugly 0.63 points per minute. That is awful. One of the worst for the guys. One of the worst out there. And if you look at his game log, it's not pretty. 11, 17, 19, 12, 28, 26, 25. That's pretty good. 15, 9, 26. He's been bad, and he's seeing big minutes is the thing. But unfortunately, he is projecting out as a pretty good value here. This is a great spot versus Washington, who is dead last, ranked 30th versus shooting guards, which is what Gary Harris is. I think he can get you over 20 fantasy points, and he's very cheap at 4,200, so I do think he's in play. Just not an exciting play, but I do think he's a solid cash game option at only 4,200. And like I said, any sheet you use, model, optimizer, he will grade out as a pretty good value, and he does on my sheet as well. And I think that's going to be about it. I know you're going to have to go punting for some other positions, but they're not core plays for me, so I'm really not going to. We'll have to see how this slate shakes out by tomorrow. But, Powell could be on a short list. Kleba would be on a short list for me. He's only 3,700. Troy Brown possibly on for Washington. And Dwight Powell, I don't know if I already talked about him. Wright would be interesting. It's a little bit at his 4,100 price tag. But really, there is not a lot down here. I thought there was someone else. JaMychal Green, maybe. Decent point per minute guy. Not terrible, but, with Paul George being back, it really hurts JaMychal Green. 8 points the last game. 19 versus Houston's not terrible. 21 versus Boston. 11 versus OKC. 23 versus Atlanta, not too bad. But, you're not going to get a lot here from JaMychal Green. He is cheap, though, but again, there's not a lot of value on the slate. Maybe some things will open up throughout the day tomorrow, but as of right now, I'm really looking at low as I want to go is probably Gary Harris at this point. Maybe you can pump with Kleba, but we will see how roster construction works out. But for sure, I definitely want to fit in Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic. I actually don't know how easy this is, so let's just try it. So let's plug in Jokic, let's plug in Luka, and we get 4,800 left. I'm probably looking to play someone like Gary Harris at this point. That gives us 4,900. That's not too bad. We could probably fit someone in like Paul Millsap. We got 4,800 left. Thomas Bryant's looking like a decent play. We got 4,400 left. It's not too bad. I'm probably going to have to go to somewhere I'm not very comfortable with, but we'll figure it out. Maybe someone like Isaiah Thomas, but that's not too bad of a start to your lineup. I can see that definitely being a way I go for tomorrow. It's only the night before, so obviously things can change, but as of right now, I am liking those guys quite a bit. I will leave you guys with that. Hope this video was helpful. If it was, remember to leave a like. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. And I got to get off. It's about 1:30 in the morning. I got to get up at 6 something. It's going to be rough. I got a stupid sociology class at like 7 a.m. I don't know why there's a class at 7 a.m. It sounds illegal. It's awful. Phew. What I go to school for, it's not even anything to do with sociology. It's just some intro class that I had to take at some point. So wish me the best of luck, guys, and I wish you guys the best of luck on this slate. See you guys in the next video, and see ya.